Hi, friends. I'm Scott Giles, and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to spirituality, hypnotic coaching, and the hypnotic arts and sciences in general. If you'd like to know more about my work or sign up for my free e-newsletter Power Lines, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Well, as I shoot this podcast, we are only a few days away from New Year's Day 2024. As is my custom, I take time in the week between Christmas and New Year's, when my practice tends to be slow, to do end of year stuff. Some of that is professional. We close the books for the year. We crunch the numbers. We look at how well our programs and marketing work. We look over our continuing education needs and make plans. We get a good objective overview of how our practice of hypnotic coaching and Reiki did in the year that has come to an end. But a larger block of time goes to personal reflection, and that's what I want to recommend to you. Now, I keep a journal and have since I was 15 years old, and so I do an elaborate end-of-year journaling process to take stock of things at a personal level. Now, over the years, I've used any number of journal keeping systems. I've used Tristan Rayner's New Diary. I've trained in the Ira Progoff Intensive Journal process. I've used the Cobb Time Power system, and I even created my own system at one point that my denomination published called Odyssey 4. All had strengths and weaknesses, even the one I created for where I was back then. Well, these days I use the bullet journal system created by Ryder Carroll. He has a book explaining it that you can find on Amazon.com or in any bookstore, and there are a bunch of videos on YouTube that explain the technique as well. Now, some people get very artistic and create a bullet journal that amounts to scrapbooking, and that's fine. Others, myself included, do a more minimalist system. The thing about bullet journaling is that it combines task management with mindful personal reflection, and I found it a good tool to help me organize a busy personal and professional life. Well, Carol created an exercise for end of year reflection, and so that's what I use for my personal assessment at year's end. You ask yourself some questions, and then you write an essay to yourself in your journal answering those questions. So here is the process. First, you ask yourself, what happened in the closing year? Well, people like me who keep a journal and who periodically review what they have written, I do a weekly review and 7 more comprehensive reviews as the year unfolds. Well, we have an easy time with this. We already have the benefits of partial summaries, so reminding ourselves of what happened in the year just involves a quick review of the summaries. For me, the unfolding year brought the addition of a new rescue cat to our household. It brought some changes in my personal look and self-care habits. I conducted a period of intense philosophical study in 2023. I supported some friends during hard times, and I spent a lot of time reflecting on our nations and its troubles. Well, the second question is asking yourself what you learned in the closing year. Not just what happened, that's the first question, but what did you learn from them? What insights did you gain? The third question is, what did you accomplish in the closing year? Now, I find this question usually is easy to answer for someone like me because we keep track of what's happening in our practice. I received a professional award, for example, in 2023, and I got it because of a project I had worked hard on that had come to fruition. So My list of accomplishments was easy to recall. But I also took good care of myself, and that's an accomplishment too. I was really pleased to see that my self-care has gotten better and that my relationships have improved too. The fourth question I find to be the hard one. What do you want to leave in the closing year? I tend to ruminate. I tend to think back at problems and bad stuff that happened. And I know that's unhealthy for me, but we all tend to do it to some degree. So, what mistakes did you make that you want to move on from and close the door about pondering? What relationships are now complete? Not that they were wrong or a mistake, but are they over? What worries do you want to put behind you? It's a difficult task, but a very rewarding one because you can't change the past. All you can do is learn from what happened and resolve to move on. The fifth question is the exact opposite of the fourth. What do you want to bring into the new year? Now, I don't think New Year's resolutions have any staying power, and I don't do them. But what can you reasonably expect of yourself in the year that is opening? And I find it fun to write my answer to this question because the key word there is reasonably expect. What do I want to bring in that I think I'm actually going to be able to do? Finally, the sixth, seventh, and eighth questions are all similar to each other. How did you fare physically in the closing year? How about mentally? How about spiritually? All of this ends up to approximating an old technique in spiritual direction called the examen. The trick here is not to beat yourself up because all of us will fall short sometimes or disappoint ourselves sometimes. It's a hard and fast rule with me that I never compare myself to others. There are always going to be people who are better or worse off than I am, so that's a silly waste of time. Instead, I use these final questions to compare myself as I am now to how I was in the past year and previous years. What have I improved on? What are the trends? Where are my growing edges? What do I really have down pat and what needs more attention? What did I love in the past year? What was fun? Did I love more than in the previous year? Did I have more fun or at least achieve more satisfaction? Where do I need to look at myself? See, the goal of preparing for the new year isn't self-criticism. It isn't writing myself a report card. If it feels like I'm doing that, then I'm doing it wrong. The goal is to get a sense of perspective and to frame yourself in your mind with what I call soft eyes. That is to say, with some forgiveness, empathy, and compassion, as well as clarity and humor. I know I've done the review right if I feel good when I've completed it. There will be unfulfilled expectations and failures, sure, there always are. But I use the review to elevate in my own mind the wins, the satisfactions, the places where I showed some grit, even if I didn't achieve every goal I wanted. The idea of preparing for the new year is to put things into a meaningful context and then point yourself in a good direction for the year that's about to unfold. So I recommend something like this process to you as well. As the old philosopher Socrates said during his trial in the dialogue called the Apology, reported by Plato, an unexamined life is not worth living. Well, I'd add that the examined life is always well worth the effort that it takes. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject. I'd like to invite you to join me. It does help me if you let others know about my work and my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. And if I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or my Patreon channel. Have a great week and a great new year.